Felicia Foster, and welcome to Window on the World. Missouri Southern State University strives to allow students to travel all across the globe. Today we'll speak to faculty and students about their trip to Norway. I'd like to welcome Dr. Cullers, Tara, and Hanna, who are students at Missouri Southern. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Now, can you tell me a little bit about what you study?
So we are from the Department of Kinesiology. I'm an associate professor there, and our department is who hosted the trip. We did have students from a variety of different departments across campus that actually took the class and attended the trip. But because we study, one of our majors in our department is health promotion and wellness, and so we really wanted to look at the different lifestyles between those living in the U.S. and those living in the Nordic countries of Denmark and Norway.
Now, before you got to go, tell me a little bit about how you prepared for this trip. How many weeks of class did you have?
In the spring, we had a 2-hour course that was the whole spring semester, and it was a combination of students that went on the trip, and then we also had several students that weren't going on the trip but that were interested in the topic. So during that time period, we learned more about the cultures in Denmark and Norway, and about several of the key components of health and life over there: food, physical activity, the healthcare system, and then we also spent quite a bit of the last part of the course learning more about some of the places we would be visiting, about packing, about currency, and some of those other travel necessities.
Tell me a little bit about the currency there. What did you have to do to get ready for that?
We actually didn't do anything ahead of time, really. What we found out was that it's the best exchange rate is exchanging your money once you're there. So once we landed in the airport in Copenhagen, Denmark, many of us exchanged money there and got kroner. What I actually learned after spending time in Denmark was that you don't need cash in those countries, and so when we then went on to Oslo, Norway, I did not get any cash out. I just used my bank card, and everyone, like from street side food stands, every business in those countries takes a card, and so that
makes it a lot easier.
It made it a lot easier. So I don't know. I'll let Hanna and Tara talk about their experiences, but actually I had someone tell me that Norway is trying to go cashless, that they're trying to make it unnecessary to have cash.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. Do you guys have anything?
Now, before the show, Tara, you're telling me you started a blog to keep track of this trip?
Hanna actually started a blog.
Yep, I started a blog about a month before we left. I tried to do it every day. That was my intention, was to do it every day when I was over there. But we were busy from sun up to sundown, so sometimes I didn't get to it. But that was my first blog I had done, and for the most part, I think it went pretty smooth. I had about probably 8 or 10 posts, I think, but it was a fun way to get everyone interacted that wasn't there with me and to keep them updated on how I was doing.
That is really cool. So you had to write papers before you went on this trip. You really had to buckle down and study and reach these certain requirements. So whenever you finally got to go, tell me about the plane ride. Was it crazy? Did you have jet lag?
It was the way there. We pretty much had no real hiccups or anything. We went straight through. We went from Springfield and then to Dallas, and then from Dallas to Amsterdam.
Oh my.
And so they were pretty long flights, and then from Amsterdam we flew into Denmark.
I will say we had gotten delayed in Springfield, and so we were concerned if we were going to make our connection in Dallas to on our transatlantic flight. And so we land in Dallas, and there's actually someone sitting there with a sign, and they gathered our group up and got us to the gate, and the plane was initially waiting for us to board. They then had some mechanical issues and they had to wait longer, but they did. So we were a little bit on pins and needles making sure that we made that flight, but we did. I think we all watched a lot of movies.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your first reaction arriving. What did you think?
Okay.
Well, first off, when we arrived in London, it was super busy. I'd never been on a plane before, so arriving in an airport that big and that busy was just kind of, crazy to me. Once we got to Copenhagen, I didn't feel like it was that bad. It's pretty easy to maneuver through the airports, and so once we finally got out and found the train and got to the place, just to be able to walk out in the city and see what it's like over there was really nice.
What do you think, Tara?
I just love Denmark. Like, I just fell in love with Copenhagen when we got there. The location of our hotel, the neighborhood that we were in was very centrally located. The public transit was very easy to use, and the people were so helpful and nice and positive.
Now, some of the activities you got to do there, we kind of talked about. Did you go biking?
We did, and I think actually we worked with a travel agency out of Springfield, and one of the way she set up the trip was our first morning, our first day in each city, we did a bike tour. And so our first full day in Copenhagen, we did a bike tour. And it really took us, I would say, through a really large part of the city. We went to different restaurants and sampled different food, but we really got a good lay of the land. And then same with Oslo. When we got there, we just actually went right around the corner and were able to take a bike tour around the city. So I think those two experiences really helped us kind of figure out where are we in the city, how to get around, and gave us a good overview. I think we were all maybe a little sore after the first day. We laughed because the woman who gave us the tour, you could tell she was going slow, and I think most of us were really trying to keep up with her. And so, and another thing I noticed, and you guys can chime in, is we didn't know the bike rules. We were tourists. We were just doing the best we could, and everyone that lived there and was riding their bike for commuting or just getting around, they were so friendly. No one yelled at us. People didn't, things that you might experience in an American city on a bike, we did not experience. Everyone was very welcoming and nice to us, even though we were on a bicycle in a foreign country. So that made it less stressful, I think.
Now, can you kind of tell me, whenever you say a lot of them were biking, is there not a lot of traffic there?
There is traffic, but especially Copenhagen is a flat city, and so they highly encourage people to bike. And so one thing that I thought was interesting is I'm used to seeing kids on the back of the bike or baskets on the side of the bike, and their bikes almost had they were like a wheelbarrow. They had a big wooden box attached to the front of the bike where the kids would sit or they'd carry their groceries. And so really biking and public transportation are a primary source of getting around in Copenhagen. Oslo is more hilly, but I still think there were a lot of people riding bikes and on public transit.
Now, when I think of Denmark and London and Copenhagen, I kind of think of rain. Lots of rain. How was the weather there whenever you got there? And you had to do all this biking.
Right.
I thought the weather was pretty good. We went kayaking, and during our kayaking trip, we saw a lot of rain, so that was interesting in the canals of Copenhagen being rained on and in a kayak.
We were all pretty wet.
Yeah, you're getting wet anyway, so.
Yeah. That's pretty nice. Now I understand you brought some pictures to share with us, so we're going to take a look at those, and you can kind of tell us about what's going on and what you learned. Let's see. Now, is this your group?
That is our group. There were 11 students, and then myself and Maria Brueggemann was the other faculty member, and that was us in Springfield. A lot of us did not know each other. We were just beginning the trip, so that was the beginning.
Now, are all these students a part of your department, or are they from different departments and just interested in health?
They're primarily actually from different departments, several pre-nursing, psychology, a few business, and they were just interested in the topic in that part of the world. A lot of the international trips focus on maybe a language or biology. I had several, and for whatever reason, this trip just kind of fit more with their interests. So I think that's one of the great things about international studies is that they offer such a variety of trips. And so students from so many different majors can find trips that they're interested in. Also, the honors department requires their students to travel internationally. And so we had several honors students participating in our trip as well.
That's wonderful. Now, we got to see a photo of you biking. I saw the baskets. That's really neat.
So that is in front of the Opera House in Copenhagen, and it's one of the stops along the bike tour. There was actually a food tour. So we got to bike all around the city and eat at some very lovely organic places.
Yeah.
What is this?
So we have a potato medley. We have some fresh greens. They're really big into locally sourced food. So things that are their seasonings are things that are native to their area. So we might not necessarily have the flavor palette here that they have. They have a whole different flavor profile. So a lot of fresh fish. I think that's roe on top of the greens. And this is another place that we ate. That's actually an old battlement that they've turned into a restaurant. And so it's another fine meal that they prepared.
Very lovely.
It was gorgeous.
That was very nice.
Oh, wow.
This is Tivoli, and I'm totally not saying it right, but Tivoli Gardens, and it is like a very old amusement park in the middle of Copenhagen, and everybody just flocks there. It's just gorgeous.
And Walt Disney, and I think I'm saying this correctly, Walt Disney went there, and that's where he got some of his ideas or his inspiration to build Disney World.
Wow. That is very neat. Oh my, what's this?
So this is one of 7 forgotten giants. So in an effort to get people out into kind of nature, this artist has taken it upon himself to build these giants in different boroughs around Copenhagen, and it took about 30-minute bus ride and then probably another 30-minute hike to get to this. This is Friendly Teddy, and what's interesting is they're completely community built, and they are built with bird houses inside of them, so they're habitats for the local aviary population.
That is an amazing idea. Wow. Oh, hot dog.
We were in Norway, and I had to think, okay, where is that hot dog from?
This is the Danish hot dog, and this is in front of the Kon-Tiki Museum. And Kon-Tiki, there was actually a famous movie, Kon-Tiki movie, about a man who set out to chart the ocean on like a little raft, basically. And so anyway, this is just a 2-for-1 with the Danish hot dog, which has pickles and fried onions and this amazing sauce, and then the Kon-Tiki Museum. And that is the raft that they traveled on.
They sailed from. He wanted to see if it was possible, if the theory that I I don't know which direction, if it was the Polynesian Islands then came over. I think it was the people from South America traveled to the Polynesian Islands on bamboo rafts. Was that possible? And so he built a bamboo raft, and with other men, they sailed from South America to the Polynesian Islands, and they made it. They survived and made it. But they are famous Nordic explorers.
That is beautiful.
This is Frederiksborg Castle. Just an amazing castle just on the outside of Copenhagen.
And a lot of our students loved the castle. It was their first time visiting a castle, and it was a beautiful day, and they had beautiful grounds. And
the day we went, there was even a wedding happening, so it was kind of cool to see. I mean, the limousine pulled up, and everyone was holding the flags, and it was just kind of cool to actually see, like, I don't know if it was a royal wedding, but
it's neat.
A big deal.
Oh, this is your kayaking trip, I assume.
Yeah, this is kayaking in Copenhagen, the canals of Copenhagen, and it was an adventure. It was kind of choppy, I think, because the weather and boats, and but everyone did a great job. So. And
that's in front of the Opera House again, so we got to see it from the water and from the land.
I've been kayaking one time, and that really works your arms.
We were all tired, I think, afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes. Takes a lot.
But then we got to eat a lot of good food because we were so active, so we worked up an appetite.
And this is the, how do you say it? Nyhavn, New Harbor. It's the famous strip that you see in most pictures representing Copenhagen.
It looks like a lot of fun.
Beautiful.
What's this?
So this is the organic farm that we visited.
We it's called like the New Nordic food movement, and again, somewhat going off of what Tara said, they're really interested in having more organic food, having locally sourced food, using food from your area, from your part of the country, and so we visited 2 farms, one outside of Copenhagen and one actually in the center of Oslo, and this was one of them. One of the things that was really neat about it, the animals they had pigs and cows and goats and sheep, maybe. They are all heritage breeds. So if you looked back 1,000 years ago, those are the same type of breeds that they raised then. So now we have kind of genetically modified all these breeds, and but they used really these traditional breeds.
I just want to point out in this picture, you see the sign there that kind of looks like a Q with a crown in the middle of it?
Yes.
That is the symbol for organic over there. So if you see that at a restaurant or on packaging or whatever, you know that it's organic. And they have actually a tiered organic system. So a bronze level is 70% organic, a silver level is like 80% organic, and the gold level is like above 90% organic. So that you can, as a consumer, say, I want something that's completely organic, or maybe I can't afford completely organic and I want to get something that's kind of organic.
Now tell me, what's something that you learned seeing with the farming styles when you compare it to the U.S. and what they're doing there?
I think really in the United States, most of our, especially our livestock, any beef, pork, chicken, poultry that we eat, is really from commercial, large-scale farming processes. And so when we went to this farm, they're really trying to go away from that, as are many farmers in the U.S. trying to offer different options. One really neat thing about this farm is they had contracted with a local hospital, and the hospital believed that if our patients in the hospital are needing to get healthy, we need to feed them healthy food that promotes that. And so they were providing the produce and the meat for that hospital facility. So I thought that was a really neat relationship. The farmer mentioned that in Denmark they still have a lot of commercial hog farming, but that the country is, and the consumers in the country are becoming much more aware of what they're eating and realizing the impact that it has on both their health and the environment. One thing about Denmark and Norway, the whole Nordic area, is that they really recognize that there is a relationship between food and the environment. And so if we're going to do large-scale commercial farming, that's not really environmentally sustainable. And it may not be best for our health either. And so if we can eat more locally, more organically, that's both helping the environment and helping the health of the individuals in the country.
Would you say that you've seen anything involving what you eat and behavior?
Could you explain that a little more?
Like whenever my child, I make sure she doesn't have a lot of processed foods, sugar, red dyes. We try to stick with organic foods because I, as a parent, notice that there's a lot of links to what she eats and how she behaves, or even how I'm feeling whenever I eat processed foods or anything like that.
Well, I'm a registered dietitian, and my doctor is in nutrition, so it is, I think a lot of research has shown, what we eat does affect us mentally and physically. Academically in the classroom, are kids getting breakfast? Are they getting lunch? What types of food are they being fed? Really has a strong relationship with how they do academically. So yeah, I think whether you're young and a student in elementary school, you're a college student, you're elderly, you're in the hospital, there definitely is a relationship. The less processed food that we're eating, the healthier we are going to be. Our country really spends more on healthcare than any country in the world, yet we have the highest incidence of chronic diseases. And so can we change that? Can we begin to eat healthier and move more, have more of that Nordic lifestyle and reduce our healthcare cost?
Now, talking about students, I understand you got to go to one of the universities there.
We did tour the outside of one of the universities there. Because of the variety of students that we had on the trip, we didn't end up kind of meeting and having a lecture with a professor. But we did tour the outside of one of their health science buildings. And then I'm trying to think, I think when we were on one of our bike tours, we rode through one of the university areas as well. And we saw some of the student housing. They were taking like container ships and stacking them and putting like windows and doors in them because housing over there is so expensive. So they were trying to find economical housing or ways to house students.
Oh, that's so fascinating though. So how do you think you're going to apply this trip to your future careers?
Well, for me, the trip was more personal trip, and so the implementation of locally sourced items and maybe looking at some things that have been lost to history that we season our foods with, that they really took the time to look into the different flavorings and things and incorporating that into lifestyle.
Are you, Hanna?
I kind of feel the same way. I'm a nursing major, and so the trip for me wasn't necessarily in the medical field or health field as far as what I'm interested in. However, I did, gain knowledge about eating and how, they eat a lot healthier over there. I found more ways you can prepare food and ways you can mix it in that may not seem so boring. I mean, here I feel like sometimes there's really healthy foods, but certain ways they fix it just looks boring to you or you don't want to try it. But the presentation of every food we tried was beautiful, and I mean, when it's presented like that and colorful, you want to dig in. Even if it's not something you usually eat, you want to try it because it looks picture perfect.
And we also had several students mention after they came back, they got their old bike out, they went and bought a bike, or they tried to start riding their bikes more because they remembered how much fun it was when they were there, and like, yeah, we need to do more of that.
We can do that at home. So the experiences you had there, you were able to bring back home and implement them. Now, do you have any recipes or tips for our viewers? Maybe something you picked up along the way?
I know Tara can make a mean Danish hot dog.
Yeah, I highly recommend you look up Danish hot dog recipes and make yourself a Danish hot dog. You will not regret it.
I think a lot of people brought home chocolate, and
Now, I heard that their chocolate doesn't have wax in it, or there's something different about it.
It's
good.
It's really good. It's a lot better. It's a lot better than ours.
That's very neat. Now, that you've had this experience and you're kind of wrapping up, your lessons in this department, what have you really brought back with you that you're going to keep, for the rest of your life? Something that's going to stick with you, learning from this trip. Was it eating? Was it exercising? Was it farming, agriculture?
I think the exercise was a big one that I noticed and picked up on. I like to bike and be as active as I can. So to see a community that's all about that and everyone's encouraged to do that, it was really cool. But another thing I kind of picked up on was that everyone over there trusts each other a lot. I mean, every time we got on the bus or the train, you didn't have to show them that you had a bus pass or you had a train ticket. I mean, you were on there and they believed you were on there because you needed to be and you knew where you were going. And I mean, it's just, I can understand why they're the happiest country because everyone was getting along and supporting each other, so.
Well, Dr. Cullers, Tara, and Hannah, thank you for joining us today and telling us about your experiences and what you've learned. I'd like to welcome anybody that is interested in studying abroad to please go to Missouri Southern State University's website, mssu.edu. Thank you.